The history of the medieval world is often told through the clashing of swords and the decrees of kings. But behind the stone walls of the palaces and in the dust of the nameless villages, half of the population lived a history that was never written. This is the story of the Parda, a veil that separated women from the world. For some, it was made of the finest silk and gold. For others, it was made of sweat and silence. Physical space. The harem was designed to be a paradise on earth, but its architecture was a masterpiece of psychological control. The labyrinth. It wasn't just one room, it was a sprawling complex of courtyards, gardens, and fountains. However, every exit was guarded by eunuchs who were the only bridge between the female world and the male world. The lattice vision. Women viewed the world through stone screens. This filtered reality meant they could hear the outside world, the horses, the markets, the wars, but they could never touch it. They were permanent spectators of a life they weren't allowed to join. Sensory overload. To compensate for the lack of freedom, the harem was filled with sensory distractions, the constant sound of water, heavy perfumes, and silt textures. This was a tactic to keep the women content in their boredom. The hierarchy of power. The harem was not a place of sisterhood, it was a place of brutal competition. The Valide Sultan, or Queen Mother, she was the ultimate CEO of the harem. Her word was law. She managed the finances, the marriages, and even decided which woman would spend the night with the king. Her power came from her son. Thus, she was often the most ruthless in protecting the dynasty. The struggle for Kas. To be the chief consort was the only way to be safe. Women used beauty, poetry, and intelligence to win the king's favor. If a woman fell out of favor, she was moved to the old palace or a neglected wing, a social death sentence where she lived in poverty despite being in a palace. The poisoned cup. Because the stakes were so high, the future of an empire, the harem was a hotbed of intrigue. Rumors, spying, and even slow poisoning were common tools used to eliminate rivals or their children. The engine of the rural economy. The peasant woman was not just a housewife, she was the silent backbone of the medieval world. Her labor was the invisible tax that kept empires running. The dawn to dusk cycle. Her day began 2 hours before the sun. She operated the chaki, or stone mill, to grind grain, a back-breaking task that defined her physical strength. She walked miles to fetch water, carrying heavy pots on her head, which often led to permanent spinal issues.